We'll be talking current events on keeping your business afloat today during COVID-19, and that means cash flow. So we're talking to a cash flow expert on the new PPP loans and how to keep the ship afloat during these uncertain times. My name is Stephen Pope, and I am the founder of My Amazon Guy. This is the My Amazon Guy podcast. So I'm now joined by Tyler Jefcoat. He's the CEO of Seller Accountant, and I would also say somewhat of a friend over the last few years. So Tyler, thanks for joining.
Hey, Stephen. Good to be here, buddy.
And so Tyler and I know each other. We met at the Prosper Show in Vegas a few years back, and then we went back to we're both local in the Atlanta area, and we had to go to Vegas to meet each other. So
yeah, it's the wildest thing. In fact, I actually talked to another mutual contact today, Stephen, that lives in Maryland, and it was so wild that I guess your wife's family lives down the road from them, and they were laughing because I've actually had dinner with you because we're both here in the Atlanta market, and yet I didn't meet you until I was out in Vegas. So I don't know. It's just a tiny world, I guess.
That's the way the world works. Well, so today we're going to be talking current events with COVID-19, and on Friday the PPP came out, and for those that haven't been paying attention to the news, what is the PPP?
Yeah, so maybe two loan programs that were recently released by the SBA that we should care about right now as sellers. The first one was actually not the PPP. It was called the EIDL, and that was a $10,000 emergency grant available to all small businesses, two-page underwriting directly through the SBA, very simple. Although, to be honest with you, I don't know that anyone's actually gotten that money yet. I think even as of this morning, I haven't heard of anyone getting that emergency loan. But you didn't have to apply with a bank in order to get that $10,000. You just applied. And so the bigger program, the one that we're more interested in, came out this past Friday, Stephen, as we're talking here. And it is called the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP, cleverly named, right? And basically this time you needed an FDIC insured bank. You needed some kind of a lender that was an SBA approved lender to get through underwriting. And so there was just this mad feasting of ideas, right? Like all of last week was like Facebook Live. Everyone's a guru. And it seemed like every single day the rules of this SBA loan would change. And then on Friday, the applications went live, and most of the banks said, whoa, you can start filling them out, but we're not going to take them until Monday morning. And then actually, as of today, and we're talking here on a Thursday, a lot of these banks are already closing down access to those applications. So we're literally talking 3 full business days after it went live. Banks are saying, okay, we've got enough. We've satisfied the billions of dollars that have been allocated. And so, I mean, maybe just to sketch the basics of the program itself, it essentially allows a small business to get roughly 2.5 times their average monthly payroll in the form of what they're calling a forgivable loan, a loan that is issued, guaranteed, signed, sealed, and delivered by the SBA. And as long as you follow the SBA's guidelines of not firing people, frankly, and keeping your employees, then after a period of 8 weeks after you get the cash, a portion or maybe all of the loan could be completely forgivable. And that's obviously great news. And I love this. I think I understand what they're doing philosophically, Stephen, because what this is, okay, instead of us as taxpayers funding millions and millions of people who are frankly already filing for unemployment, regardless of whether this program comes out or not, why don't we fund the small businesses and keep people employed and frankly, let them do something of good instead of having to hunt for a new job in 3 months when the market recovers?
So I'm a small business. You're a small business. We started our businesses about the same time, in fact, right. And we've kind of watched each other's journeys on this. And I also have applied for a PPP loan, and I applied through Cabbage.com and then 2 banks. I went with a credit union, and I went with a major retail bank. And so far in the application processes, I've gotten the farthest on Cabbage, and then the big bank, which was Chase in my case, hasn't even requested any documentation.
Yeah. I have found that local banks have been the best luck for my customers. I think of an outfit like Cabbage that was able to apply specifically to have access to this program. And by the way, this just kind of makes me think, Stephen, this is incredibly easy money for the banks. They don't have to worry about losing any capital. The feds are guaranteeing every dime of these loans, and the feds are going to pay them a 5% underwriting fee for facilitating the transaction. But yeah, I wouldn't expect Wells, BOA, or Chase to be very responsive at this point because they got 100,000 transaction requests on Friday morning.
And I'm sure they're going after the multi-million dollar checks instead of the paper pushing 100K, 50K loans that the majority of the small businesses are going to be seeking. So it's challenging to say the least.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So just to set you up as an expert on this subject matter, Tyler, can you tell us a little bit about your seller accountant business?
Yeah, sure. So seller accountant, we only do two things. I'm an accountant, but we provide bookkeeping services for sellers, and we provide CFO services, so fractional CFO services for sellers. 100% e-commerce. My team is here in Athens, Georgia, and we love what we do. And the landscape is changing so quickly that, I had 10 bodies in my office. I'm like, what do I do 2 weeks ago? And so we just decided, Stephen, to frankly read as much of this frickin' bill as we could. As it passed, the president signed it on Friday afternoon. We already had the Senate copy 48 hours before the president signed it, and we had read the majority of the bill by Monday morning. And so as the SBA has been giving us additional guidance on the bill, we've been able to stay pretty current, because this is a big deal. Half of our clients are having a great month because they're not running out of stock yet in FBA and they're selling a lot of stuff. But half of our customers, Stephen, are struggling. They're trying to manage cash flow through an unheard of shutdown of our economy.
I like to call it a black swan event, and that's because it's a highly improbable, highly unpredicted, and highly impactful event. I've also like to use the phrase it's a once in a 100-year event. And
Right.
so, yeah, we're living in textbook news, so to speak, for sure. So let's briefly talk about that remote aspect. So I had made the decision to take my business remote about 6 months ago, and I'm smiling and grinning over here because I made an early good decision, and I'm getting the benefit of said luck, if you will. But a lot of businesses are just like you, Tyler, where they're finally just going remote for the first time. Do you think you might stay remote?
Good question. I mean, I feel so thankful. The business I sold 2.5 years ago, not only do we have a central office, but we had 120 healthcare employees remote in people's homes right now. And I can't imagine managing a business. So let me just say this. I'm grateful to not have to be a restaurant owner right now. I'm grateful to not own a nail salon or anything like that.
And God bless the trash man. That's just
yeah. I mean, the garbage man, my goodness, my healthcare workers, right? And so, yeah, Stephen, the fact that you and I have businesses where we can pivot, it actually wasn't that big an adjustment. In fact, I already worked at home 2 days a week anyway.
And I see that whiteboard behind you.
Getting clever here, right? Yeah. I mean, literally, it's funny. The worst thing that happened to me, Stephen, was toting my extra standing desk from my office home. I broke the darn window in the back of my car.
Oh no!
Slid in the back of my SUV. I didn't even know it for 3 days because we don't drive anymore. We just stay at the house, right? And so I went outside. And my wife's like, "Damn, dude, you broke a window in the back of your car." And so anyway, that's my biggest moving expense, Stephen, has been $271 to replace a window in the back of my Pilot. That hurt my feelings, but beyond that, this transaction has been smooth. My team has responded amazingly. We'll probably still have an office as an option, but we've always had the remote option, and we love that option.
All right, so let's turn our attention back to the PPP. So if I'm a business and I haven't done anything on PPP yet, is it too late?
I don't think so. I think you better find a banker who's still accepting applications. It's interesting, Stephen, that you went with 3 applications. For anybody who's doing that, that's not a terrible strategy. But whatever you do, don't sign all 3 of them. What I mean by that is don't take money from more than one bank for the same program, which of course, Stephen, you would never do that. But that's the red flag the IRS is looking for from an audit standpoint would be if there are going to be some scammers out there that'll go, take money from 7 different banks and try to disappear. That's not going to work. At this point, I have heard of multiple banks not taking any more apps. Again, we're only 3 or 4 days in. They're already shutting it down. They've been totally inundated with requests. But 2 reasons that you shouldn't despair if you haven't taken action yet. One is that there are still probably some of your local banks that will process apps. I would just call them. Better yet, somebody that you know, your credit union. I start with the small banks. Don't do the big ones. And even if everyone, I haven't heard anything that makes me think everyone is shut down, but if everyone was shut down, as we speak right now, Stephen, the Congress they're debating whether to extend this small business credit by an additional $250 billion. As of about 2 hours ago, the Democrats kind of vetoed it for the moment, but they're negotiating back and forth. I can almost guarantee you that within, 10 business days, we're going to see an additional $250 billion fund this program. And it's going to mean that all these banks, once they figure it out, are going to open back up the opportunities to get the money.
So one of the points that I think the news has done a good job of explaining is that this is almost pure free money. And
Right.
so every business should absolutely be checking this out. And if you don't have a financial expert on staff, you need either do one of two things. Either one, at least go fill out an application and check that box at bare minimum. But
Yeah.
number two, probably should maybe hire an expert like you guys.
Yeah, I mean, well, thanks for the shout out, man. But yeah, I would say one of the things you mentioned there, I think is really important is that sellers that are stronger, that are having a pretty good, maybe had a good end of the first quarter, are feeling guilty about whether they should apply for the PPP or not.
Don't be. Go file.
Don't feel guilty. We're at the very, very, very beginning of this crisis in terms of the economic impact. And you just here's my perspective for you. We have folks in our network that are so laden down with debt, that have such a cash flows challenge, that no amount of government subsidy is going to keep them from crashing over the next 6 months. I hate to say it's the reality is what it is. This program is designed for those of us, frankly, like you and me, Stephen, that are running normal businesses that under normal circumstances would be profitable. But because of the unbelievable disruption to the economy, we need help bridging the gap so we can keep our teammates. And so get over the feeling of this is a government handout. Get over the feeling of I don't deserve this. It's garbage. Apply for the loan. Because if you're selling through Amazon, you have been impacted by this, period, 100%. And then what was your second question there, Stephen?
Well, a couple things you made me think of, and I was thinking ahead instead of thinking behind, so forgive me for not remembering. But one point I would make is you can still fire and hire like normal right now if you get the PPP loan. The one caveat, and this is the one big takeaway for me personally, is that as long you have to maintain the same number of headcount. That doesn't mean you can't fire and rehire, right? So like right now, the talent pool availability to go find some good talent right now is now gigantically larger. Huge. And so you're going to be able to find some talent right now. And I don't think anybody's talking about it like this, and that's why I'm bringing it up. I think you should be hiring right now, if at all possible, if your payroll allows it, because you're going to be able to pick up some talented individuals who are, quite frankly, desperate to work, and you're going to be doing them a favor, but they're going to do you a favor because they're underappreciated because they don't have employment at the moment. So it's going to be a win-win in some of those situations. But at the same time, I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, hey, I've got this one guy and he's made a mistake, and I want to cut him, but if I apply for this, I can't do it. No, actually, you can. Just make sure you rehire somebody. So that was one of the things I was thinking about to call out.
Great point. I mean, it really means, Stephen, that you need to run your business like a business owner, right?
Yep.
You need to be a CEO. You need to hold your team accountable for performance. You need to hold your products. I know stocking out is different, but you need to hold your products accountable for profitability. And when it comes to people, I love that idea. If you are strong right now, if you're in the blessed position to have a little bit of cash flow, why are you not looking for opportunities to buy competitors? Why are you not looking for opportunities to hire high-level employees that are good at stuff that you're not good at? You've been putting off an influencer marketing strategy because you don't know how to do it. You've been putting off a Shopify strategy because you don't know how to do it. Find some talent out there when it gets a little bit more available and take advantage of it. I mean, you should.
So I totally agree. And we just entered into quarter two, and I was thinking, you mentioned we're just at the beginning stages of this crisis. So everybody's just trying to fly this airplane as they build it, so to speak. But what should people be doing right now? What should business owners be doing right now that you think maybe they're not paying attention to yet?
Yeah, I had a meeting with I lead a mastermind for 7- and 8-figure Amazon sellers via Zoom. We met yesterday, and all of us, and I would include myself in this, were behind our normal commitments for having a clear quarterly plan. And there's really two reasons for this. One is there's never been a time in my career ever, Stephen, where seeing what June is going to look like is like more vague. I have no idea. Like, I'm a CFO for $100 million a year worth of sales on e-commerce sites, including Amazon. And I couldn't give with integrity a sales projection for almost any of my clients. We just don't know. We don't know when FBA is going to open back up. We don't understand how different listings are going to interact. We don't understand how the Wuhan opening is going to affect the supply chain that's going on literally today in China. And so it's hard to project. And so what CEOs are doing, and maybe some of our listeners are doing, is they're sitting and waiting. They're being patient instead of being persistent. And so I think my encouragement to my audience, and Stephen, I would say to yours also, is doggone it, it's never been harder to know what the future is going to do, but it's also never been more important to be proactive in approaching your goals. And so the way I do that is I literally take a half day by myself every quarter. I've done it maybe for 10 years now, even before I owned my first business. And I take a journal, I shut down electronics, and I say, what do I want to be true in my life 90 days from now in my business? And then I ask the more important second question, which is, what are the habits that need to be true in my life? What are the activities, the actions that I need to commit to taking in order to ensure, or as much as I can possibly control, ensure that I hit my goals for the quarter? And I need to go public with those goals so that the people around me that love me will hold me accountable for them, right? And so if you're a CEO of a business right now and you're trying to figure out, what do I do? First of all, you need to be developing products. That's a no-brainer. I'm sure, Stephen, you talk about that all the time. But beyond that, don't forget that there is going to be a back end of this, and that there are going to be competitors of yours that have been sitting on their rears that are not going to be ready, and you need to be ready. And so I think that's my advice.
So that's a good point. You have a lot to dissect there, specifically in the developed products. Let's talk about that first. So with cash flow tight, a lot of businesses are just cutting expenses right now. And for some, that's literally all they can handle at the moment.
Right.
For other businesses that are looking for opportunities, though, if you don't go to market with your product by October, you're going to miss the Q4 rush, right? And so right now is the perfect time to kick off that order in China and get that goods over. Because if you get the goods over here by June or July, that's some breathing room to make sure you hit that big launch in Q4. So that's definitely one thing I'm thinking about right now is like, what could I be launching right now, and what are people avoiding and not launching because of the cash flow issues?
Yep.
So I like the other point you made about focus, and you talked about habits and how you're thinking and thinking about how to take control and be accountable. The return and report aspect, absolutely couldn't agree more with. So I've also seen, before COVID-19 hit, I was watching YouTube clips like Sam Ovens and a bunch of others, and they were just talking nonstop about this focus and go deep on one thing instead of going broad and scattershotting or shotgunning. I probably think that's probably more important now than ever. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, yes, I couldn't agree more. I think doing things with excellence has never been more important now. Like getting great at something, using this moment. I mean, I don't know about you, Stephen, but as an entrepreneur, like I kind of bitch and moan constantly about not having time to do the things I wish I could do.
Right.
Like as an entrepreneur, like now is when I need to be doing them. Like, how do I need to sharpen the axe to develop a new skill set, to really tighten down? It could be something as simple as really tightening down my listings, doing additional homework, the stuff that takes time, or something really small. This is like, I have a customer right now who is having to self-fulfill some of his products, right? And he's writing a simple handwritten note on some of the packages. Like do things that you can do because you have time that sets you apart from your customers. And maybe one question I would ask, I wonder, Stephen, what your thoughts are on this, but what are the buyer needs? What are the buyer expectations? What are the buyer experiences that are changing now? Maybe forever because of COVID-19.
That's a great question, and I have a lot to say on this one. So I think that because schools are not returning this year, school years is out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've got home daycare going on. We've got businesses that said, hey, you couldn't be remote before, that have now been forced to do it. And now everybody, like the workforce is never going to return to what it was. It is going to be a very much more remote gig economy. And that, so, basically in the past when you were trying to run a career, so this is advice for people who, aren't necessarily running their own business, but maybe they're part of the workforce, right? So if you're a marketing manager out there, that kind of angle, you used to have three choices. You could pick location, salary, or title. And you had to pick two of those three. And now location is just flat out almost granted. We could work remotely. You're going to be able to see talent go cross state lines like never before, right? So that's from a talent pool standpoint. My second observation would be that from a buyer's standpoint, we're going to see people shop differently than they ever have before. And we're already seeing this because people who hadn't got on the I'm going to buy stuff from Amazon aspect and I'm going to go to the grave before I ever do it, were forced to do it, right?
That's right.
Your retail store is shut down. And so buyer behaviors are changed. And when that happens, that means there's more available growth. And so we saw Amazon hire 100,000 workers. Walmart hired like 80,000 just to handle the demand. It was way, way up. I was talking to some sort of hedge fund business investor the other day, and he was trying to calculate what he thought Amazon's true growth was during this time period. And I was saying things like 2 and 3x, and he challenged me on that. And we kind of ran through the numbers. Amazon's probably right around 40% up right now, probably realistically, but still enough to break their back in their supply chain and issues. So last thought I have is so right now Amazon is recession proof. And if we go into a big depression, I think we will, it's going to be the first sector that recovers, even if it does go down. And you'd mentioned that a lot of businesses are either way up right now or way down, and there's not a lot of people in between. But nonetheless, I think I have a very positive outlook for Amazon specifically and e-commerce in general, that we'll see demand continue to be very, very good.
And you mentioned Walmart, by the way. Don't sleep on Walmart. I think they are investing. This is a huge opportunity for Walmart to try to inch its way up the learning curve of direct to consumer, open up a marketplace similar to FBA to try to compete recently. They're not doing it well yet. They haven't figured it out yet.
I don't know why, because they bought Jet and they're like, oh, can't integrate Jet. Their system's too new. Our system's too old. I don't know what it was, but man, they fumbled that one bad.
Well, instead of being a decade behind, which they are right now, they'll end up being like 5 years behind. So it's still going to be a win for Walmart. They're not going to catch Amazon. Yeah,
it will definitely. I think we will see Amazon get knocked off at some point. This is going to show Amazon's weaknesses and vulnerabilities in areas that they've never had to experience before. So the last thing I think changes on the landscape here is that a lot of brick and mortar retailers now have their inventory still, but they don't have a way to access selling it, and they hadn't thought of Amazon before. And now, guess what? My phone's ringing off the hook right now with businesses that want to sell on Amazon for the first time, and that one caught me off by guard. It makes sense in retrospect, but I was still caught off guard that they were going to have to find some avenue. In addition to that, though, we've done a good job with our Amazon clients in helping them launch on Walmart and eBay and other opportunities, and we build Shopify websites to get those going. If Amazon, shuts you down or suspends you or doesn't allow shipments inbound, that cuts down on your revenue stream. You got to have other options right now. Mm-hmm. And so I think you're very much onto the diversification idea. Very, very good subject. All right, so people have a little extra time on their hands. They're not commuting. They're listening to more podcasts like the My Amazon Guy podcast. I understand you've launched some new coursework recently that might help you be a better bookkeeper or a better CFO. Can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, so our vision to launch courses as a accounting shop has been 2 or 3 years now. And we executed. I'm thankful we did this. It was kind of like you going remote, Stephen. It was accidental, great timing. But we recorded these courses. Basically, the first one is a bookkeeping. How do you do the Amazon accounting correctly, where you can see your fees and your revenues and your cost of goods sold? How do you do the inventory monster? All that kind of stuff, start to finish. And then the second course is, as a CFO, there are some things that I do that I don't have time to do for all the sellers out there that can help you understand your profitability and make more money. So there's 2 courses. And our initial vision, Stephen, because there's so many sellers out there because our phone is also ringing off the hook, that we couldn't help. We thought, well, geez, we'll let them do it themselves. $497 for the bookkeeping accounting course and $997 for the CFO course. And but then the market changed. Everything has really radically changed in the last literally 2 or 3 weeks. It's amazing how quickly it's changing. And we've decided to just throw that pricing strategy out, Stephen. And that was actually I'm glad you have me here today. But for your listeners, we're going to offer each of those 2 courses for $99 each. So if you want to take this time, redeem these moments by learning how to actually do your own accounting well, forget about hiring an accounting agency. Do that later once you're back on track. If you want to learn how to do your own CFO analysis better, and you've got a little time to burn right now, I want to offer both of these courses each for $99.
And so to take advantage of this promotion, where do you go?
Yeah, so we've actually, it's funny, it's so new, we haven't even launched the landing page, but there's actually a blog on our website. So selleraccountant.com. You can actually get to it that way. Stephen, I'll send you a link so you can put it in the show notes here.
We'll put it in the notes for the show. And then to get access to the promotion, just put in a promo code then, it sounds like. Can we make the promo code My Amazon Guy?
Yeah, My
Perfect.
Amazon
I would
Guy.
love it. Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that's selleraccountant.com, and just head over to their blog link. We'll put that link again inside of the podcast description, and that'll save a pretty penny. Normally going to be $1,000 or $500 for those 2 courses. Now for $99, use promo code My Amazon Guy. So that's great. Well, cool. Here we're getting close to wrapping up. Tyler, what other advice would you say my listeners who are focused on Amazon right now? What else should they be paying attention to? Get better at your skills, habits. We talked about that. What else?
Only 2 more things I had on my mind here as you were talking there, Stephen.
One
is challenge your beliefs right now while things are slow. What are the things I'm assuming about how my business, quote unquote, has to be done that might not be true in the future? What do I need to change about my mindset? We were talking about this with remote working. Obviously, that was a false assumption by companies that I can't possibly get work done if I'm remote. That's garbage. Of course you can. What are the things about the way I'm interacting with my customers and my suppliers that I could potentially change and innovate? That's one. And then the second thing is, what is one small tangible way that I can humanize the experience of interacting with my products? So I believe wholeheartedly, like you do, I'm so optimistic, Stephen, that e-commerce is going to rebound quickly. It's exactly where you want to be as an entrepreneur right now. But I also wholeheartedly believe what Daniel Pink said over a decade ago in his book, A Whole New Mind, that people don't buy products just because they check off the boxes. I don't just need this pen to write. I want it to mean something to me. And so whether it's having better videos or putting a personal touch in your product boxes, doing something that creates a human connection for your key relationships while we're feeling so isolated, you're going to find that there is outsized ROI on 2 seconds. And just a quick story, like I've been trying to start recording on my iPhone 30-second thank you videos, just personalized. You know, Stephen, you might get one for me tomorrow, right? Hey, thanks for having me on your podcast. I love you, dude. Killer beard. And I'm going to send Stephen this text message. It took me less time than writing him an email. He's 7 times as likely to open and consume that video. And in terms of building our relationship, which I already love the guy, but it's going to help. And so don't forget that for the important relationships in your life.
Can't say my beard gets many compliments. That actually means a lot. You have no idea. It's probably pure laziness on my part to grow it, but yeah, I do that. My wife likes the full beard over the goatee, and so the compromise. Okay, we'll do the full beard.
Yeah, well, I'm bald, so there it is.
I plan on cue balling it myself and going cue ball goatee, and my hair is thinning out on top here. It's getting super thin, and as I've talked to hair experts such as yourself, I'm told it goes slowly, so I still might have a couple years left. We'll see what happens.
There we go.
All right. Well, Tyler, thank you for joining me on my Amazon Guy podcast. Did you get to the second point, or did we get both of those in?
That was it. Yeah.
Perfect.
What are your false assumptions, and how can you make your experience human for your clients? Yeah.
All right, perfect. So again, one last plug for Tyler Jefcoat. He is the CEO of Seller Accountants. He's got courses on how to be a better CFO and bookkeeping on his website. We'll have links for that in the podcast notes. And promo code for My Amazon Guys, the promo code for $99 for those courses versus the retail price of $1,500. So really good deal for our listeners today. And again, Tyler, thanks for joining.
You got it, bud. Take care.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to the My Amazon Guy podcast. Please feel free to subscribe to our podcast and tell somebody else about it and share it across social media. It will help us get more word out there that there are opportunities to learn and get better during times like this. So this is the My Amazon Guy podcast. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm your host.